Hey everybody, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving and took a couple of days to enjoy some time with friends and family. That's exactly what I did. Hope you didn't miss me too much, but we're back and I'm doing another character power ranking tier list, this time for Final Fantasy VI. Something Classic tagged me a few months ago, saying that they would love to see me power rank Chrono Trigger, which I did, linked here, and now I'm about to do Final Fantasy VI. So Tyler, Something Classic, loved Quartet. This one is for you guys. Hope you enjoy. A couple more things just by really brief way of disclaimer before I jump in. For starters, I first played this game when I was 8 years old, back in 1995. Beat through it then, and I've beaten it dozens of times since. Fun fact, Final Fantasy VI is my very favorite mainline Final Fantasy. So I spent a lot of time with this game, but most of it was on my Super Nintendo cartridge that said Final Fantasy III. So if I somehow slip out and say Final Fantasy III at some point in this video, that's just 90s brain. Similar with some of the naming conventions in this game. The best example I can think of right offhand is what you kids might know as the Master's Scroll, the item that lets you attack 4 times. In my cartridge, it was called the Offering. So I might misname quote unquote some things, but I'm really not. I'm just going by the name it was back in the 90s. A lot of that got retranslated with newer versions of the game. I think if I make some mix-ups there, everything should otherwise make sense in context of what I'm talking about. But if you have any questions, I read every comment I get. Just let me know, and I'm happy to clear that up. Other than that, I always like to just briefly explain how I'm ranking things. In this video, I'm going to slant it to how strong the characters are in the end game. I'm of the opinion that the end game is where your harder fights are, so that's where I think power matters the most. I think the early game, for the most part, is pretty easy, but I'm not going to discount it entirely. I will talk about how the character's strength is throughout the journey, because there are going to be some characters who I think are very strong in the late game and very weak in the early game, and vice versa. And I will point all of that out, but this final list is slanting to how strong they are in the end game, and I think that will explain a lot of the differences you see here from some of the other lists. Because in the early game, a lot of the special stuff like tools and blitz and stuff like that, throw, are the strongest things you can do. In the end game, basic attacks for some characters and magic for most others is the best thing you can do. So there are some things that get broken up that way. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's start with my one and only D tier character. I don't think that this is going to be a hot take at all, and for me, that would be Umaro. I mean, there's not a lot to say here. You have absolutely no control over him. You get him very late in the game. He can't be developed or built up via espers. He can equip virtually nothing by way of gear. This is just a character who you have no customization, no control over. Yes, he's pretty physically powerful. Yes, I've seen some people say you can get some mileage out of him in like the Cultist Tower. Granted, I still think he's by far the worst character in the game. I don't think I need to explain it. You can't control him. Other characters are going to put out way more damage, have support options and utility and healing if you need it. There's just no good reason that I could think of to pick Umaro over other options. You get him really late, so it's not even like he's serving you at some early point in the game. I could actually see Umaro being pretty good if you got him in like the World of Balance for at least a little while, but it doesn't play out like that. So yeah, he's the weakest character in the game. Let's move on to our C tier. And I hate to put a character who I love canonically so damn much this low on the list, but on ruminating over everything, this is where he fell for me. And I am talking about our loving dad, our samurai, our badass Cyan. Again, this is not a canonical ranking. If you love his story, and I do too, that's a totally different thing. This is a power analysis. And Cyan has a lot of things going against him. He's one of the slowest characters in the game, which is a pretty big deal. Some people say that speed's like not a great stat in this game. I actually think it's a pretty good stat, especially later on. If you work it into some characters, especially naturally faster characters like Locke or Shadow, you could really notice the turn economy improving with speed. So he's very slow, and his special abilities, in my cartridge they were called sword techs. I think for the kids it's called Bushido. But whatever they're called, they're absurdly slow, especially the higher end better ones. The time it takes you to charge that up, the enemy's going over and over again. The juice is not worth the squeeze, especially since it's basically locking out the rest of your party. Unless they are raging like Umaro or Gao, how, but I still wouldn't consider that an optimal strategy. So he's a weak mage. He has a pretty bad special ability that's just too slow and not action economy friendly. He's strong, but the problem with Cyan is the katanas in this game are just not better than some of the other swords and knives or even spears that other characters get access to. So his gear options aren't terribly great for the most of the game either. So there's just really no redeeming qualities here. He's slow. His naturally high strength is crippled by the fact that he doesn't have great gear. He's not a great mage. His special ability isn't very good. Cyan falls this low on this list for all of these reasons. Coming in next, and I know that there's going to be some people who disagree with this, and I would kind of get it, but I don't care. I feel pretty good about this placement. For me, I'm talking about Setzer. Now, Setzer's base stats, basically across the board, are abysmal. So we're already starting there. He has bad stats. Setzer's slots ability, in my opinion, there were ways, at least back in my day, to cheese the game by pausing repeatedly to get the desire you want. And if you do that, his slots are actually completely abusable and breakable, especially in the early game. It's actually very overpowered. In the late game, I would still say characters power creep him until he gets the fixed dice in the very last dungeon, which are pretty good. But again, you get them in Kefka's Tower. And even then, I still think that there were better choices for the Offering or Master Scroll with like a Genji Glove than Setzer. So even though he can become a very good attacker in the very end of the game, I still don't think he's your best option. And if you don't like cheese or just spam pause in the game, which I certainly don't. I never do that. This is the thing about this channel. If I deem a strategy like super exploitive or cheesy, I generally don't factor it. If you were going to factor that, I would say, okay, maybe he's like a high B, low A if you factor that cheese. If you don't, he's C. Do with that information what you will. Terrible stats, mostly bad gear, and an ability that's really random and bad if you don't exploit it, or otherwise exploitable and kind of game breaking if you do. So that's Setzer in a nutshell. Let's move on to the top and final character of our C tier, which for me is Strago. You know, it's actually kind of surprising how low Strago's magic stat is compared to several other mages in this game, like Celes and Terra, they're both better natural mages than him. They have better play availability to build them up through espers, and they just have outstanding gear options and can double over as warriors. So yeah, Strago really is dealt a pretty rough hand here. He is sort of the blue mage of the game, and through his lore, he can access some pretty good spells. I think in the main, all of the spells that you could really want or need, you can naturally learn through espers. So even then, the natural versatility that's built into this game's esper system really does kind of step on Strago's, right? It steps on his role even further. He has awful base stats in the main. His gear options, for the most part, are not that good compared to some of the other characters, and I just couldn't see how I could rank him any higher than this. You mix this with pretty middling availability, yeah, I couldn't put him any higher. All mages are good, and Strago is still an above average mage by his nature, but you just have much better options that are going to show up much higher on this tier list. That closes out the C tier, and now we are coming in the bottom of B tier, and I've seen a lot of other tier listers rank this character a lot higher than I'm about to, but let's talk it out, because for me, the next character I'm talking about is Gogo. I'm going to refer to them as they because I don't think Gogo is gendered, so just explain that in advance. My problem with Gogo is, well, for starters, you get them very late in the game. So it's not like you have, and I actually think Gogo, kind of like Umaro, would actually be an outstanding character if you had access to them in the World of Balance, because their gimmick is you could put any set of abilities you want on them, throw, blitz, that kind of stuff, right? And those abilities, in my opinion, are outstanding in the early game and kind of fall off in the late game, aka by the time you get your hands on Gogo. Mix this with the fact that Gogo's base stats are abysmal, and Gogo does not have access to a lot of the best gear in the game that these higher tier characters will. I just don't see why I would want to use Gogo as one of my main staples by the time you have access to them. The versatility, I remember as a kid, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, but the versatility, now that I'm an adult, It's like, it looks better on paper than it is in practice. All you need to do at this point in the game is be able to cast magic or fight, like everybody can, but the naturally best mages will win the magic tournament, and the characters with the best gear options, like Locke or Edgar, are gonna win the attacking. So it's like, I just don't see how I could rank Gogo any higher. I see a lot of people do. I'm not going to. I still respect their versatility, which is why I decided to put them as a low B tier. Could be useful in the Cultist Tower, etc., but I'm not gonna rank them any higher than that, that's for sure. Coming in next in the B tier, and this was a character who I used as much as I possibly could as a kid, every single time, because I think he's such a canonically awesome character, and I've always loved ninjas. I'm a complete ninja stan. You'll know that if you saw my Final Fantasy Tactics tier list, but I couldn't put him any higher. We're talking about Shadow. Shadow's stats across the board are actually pretty good. He's very strong and he's very fast. He's not a great mage, but that's okay. Throw in the early game is really good, although the early game in Shadow, he's really fickle because he'll just run off and leave you at random, which is the most frustrating thing in the world. So let's start there. Shadow's availability is really spotty, and that does work against him when you're trying to build character stats up through espers. Mix this with the fact that Shadow's weapon options are really not that great. He's not batting with Locke and Edgar and Celes and Terra in terms of some of the really, really good weapon access that those characters have. It's really for these reasons that I couldn't put Shadow any higher. You're gonna have better Master Scroll candidates higher up on the list, so for me, this is where Shadow lands. I still love him to pieces. I think he has some of the most compelling story beats in the game, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about power, and that's where I landed. The top of my B tier, I know this is going to be a riot. Somebody's going to rip my head off in the comments for this. I'm ready for it, and I even kind of understand it, but for me, it's Gao. Now look, I do understand Gao's potential, especially in the early and mid game. Gao is arguably the strongest character in the game. If you're willing to spend a ton of time on the Veldt with him, jumping on enemies all day long, you can get some really good rages, and some of them just do devastating damage at all stages of the game, and it's pretty powerful. I cannot deny that about Gao. Do I have the patience? Did I ever have the patience to do that? No, I don't. I just don't. I don't like Gao as a character. That probably doesn't help. I just don't think he's a cool or compelling character like so many of the other characters in this game. And I'm never a fan of losing control over my character. Yes, in Gao's case, you can lose control of him to devastate your enemies, but by like the mid to mid-late game, you can devastate your enemies with characters who you have full control over. By the end game, I think that some people overstate his power, but yes, Gao is an extraordinarily powerful character. If you like raging, if you want to build him up, if you want to work him, I wouldn't fight you for arguing that he's an S tier character, but for my playstyle, I'm never a fan of characters who I have no control over. I like options, I like tactical versatility, and I don't like spending a ton of time grinding out. I think he has like 200 rages or something you can learn. It's crazy. And again, you don't need them all. Like a lot of people will say just get cat scratch and then go with that. And yeah, I get it all. But I split the difference. I think Gao is a high B tier character. I wasn't going to put him any higher than that. I'm not even going to say fight me in the comments because I'm probably wrong. It's my own bias. I do not like Gao's playstyle. We're moving into the A tier, and this one's going to be a hot take too. This one I'm willing to fight in the comments about too. If you had to ask me who the most overrated character in video game history is, who I've seen top like so many power tier lists, and I'm just convinced that these tier lists were made by people who've never made it past like the 6-hour mark of the game. Sorry to throw shade. We're talking about Edgar. Now put away your pitchforks and just hear me out, and then stab me later, okay? Edgar is a very good character. In the early game, his tools are absolutely absurd. They don't even feel fair. Right, his auto crossbow for the first several hours of the game is just free, full screen damage that'll hit harder than anything that anybody else can do. It's bonkers. It's really good. And his tools hold up, I would say, basically all the way through the World of Balance, which is a pretty good start. And that's not the end of Edgar's virtues. Edgar is fairly strong naturally, although he's quite slow. slow, which is a bummer. And Edgar gets access to basically all of the best gear in the game. The awesome swords that Locke, Celes, and Terra can wield, Edgar can wield those. And in addition, Edgar's a spear wielder and can be turned into a dragoon later in the game if you want to go that route, which is also a very powerful option. And you might be thinking, okay, Nick, he's strong, he's very good in the early game, he still holds up in the end game, why are you putting him this low on the list? It's actually for one simple reason. I do think Edgar falls off a bit in the late game. I believe that there are better options for your Master Scroll and wielding some of those best swords or other weapons in the game than Edgar, and I actually prefer Mog as a dragoon myself. We'll talk about Mog in a little bit. So while Edgar definitely has options in the late game to be a very powerful character, if you're an Edgar stan, don't take this as me saying he's weak. He's not weak. I just think in the late game, there are characters who outpace him a bit, and that's why he falls this low on this list. Coming in next on the A tier, and I wasn't sure whether to put this character ahead or behind Edgar, because I think Edgar has slightly more potential than this character, but you would have to cannibalize other characters' potential to get that out of Edgar, whereas this character just stands on their own 2 feet all game long, and that's why I put them ahead. We're talking about Edgar's twin brother, Sabin. When you first get Sabin, he's just unfair good. His blitzes are versatile, they're free, and they're extraordinarily powerful as long as you can execute the button commands, which honestly I never had a hard time with personally. Maybe mileage can vary for you, but like his Aura Blast for the first several hours of the game, which is a really easy command, is just bonkers strong. He ends up getting some heals through his blitzes. It's really versatile. It's a bummer that his blitz scales off of magic because Sabin's natural magic stat is abysmal, but even with like no investment, his blitzes still hit really hard. Just like Edgar, I would say blitz falls off in the late game where magic or Master Scroll attacking really starts to ascend. But even on all stages of the game, including the late game, Sabin will not need to hog any of that good gear that basically your other characters want, and he'll still be able to perform amazing damage and or support through his blitzes, just through his blitzes. Build up his magic stat, and he's always a competent unit and can absolutely carry you through the first like 2/3 of the game, just on his natural aptitudes and blitzes alone. So yeah, I think Sabin's a mid A tier character, comfortable putting him there. The next character who I'm going to put in the A tier, and this one might also be a riot, for me it's Relm. Now look, I'm aware that Relm has the naturally highest magic stat in the entire game. That's pretty cool, but you know something? Celes and Terra have still very good natural magic stats, and you have, I would say especially with Celes, really excellent and definitely better than Relm availability with them to build them up via Espers. Mix this with the fact that they can also double over as outstanding sword fighters and have access to just all of the best gear in the game, basically. I think Celes and Terra are overall better than Relm. I think you can build them to be better mages just through their superior availability, and they're tankier and have attack options on top of that. Relm's still here high in the A tier for a reason. If you're a Relm stan, you want to go Relm mage, you'll do just fine. Relm is an outstanding mage, and magic is very strong in this game. I just think she's outclassed by some of the other mages, and that's why I couldn't put her any higher than this, but she's still sitting pretty high on this list. Coming in at the top of A tier, and this one might be a little bit of a sleeper, I don't know, we'll see what you guys think in the comments, but for me, closing out our A tier is Mog. Now, Mog's availability, I have to say, is quite spotty, but I gotta say, this character has so much going for him. I think Dragoon builds are an outstanding alternative to the character who gets the Master Scroll as just a safe way to do multi-hit, devastating damage, and Mog makes an excellent Dragoon with his spears and those relics, right? The Dragon Horn and I think the Dragon Boots, right? The boots let you jump, the horn makes it hit 4 times. A Dragoon build on Mog is really good. Mix this with the fact that Mog can equip the Snow Scarf, by far the best piece of armor in the game, and he has pretty good natural HP to boot. Mog just becomes an unstoppable juggernaut. He's in the air half the time, and when he's on the ground, He's just very difficult to kill. This is such an outstanding tactical option that, yeah, I think he's an absolute unit. He has outstanding damage potential. And on top of all of that, this isn't really a combat thing, but I'm going to price it in here anyway. He can wear, and he's the only one who can, the Moogle charm, which totally shuts off random encounters and lets you just freely explore the world. It's amazingly convenient. And it is a good argument for wanting to have Mog in your party. And in my later playthroughs, I use Mog all the time because I actually think he's really damn good and kind of slept on. So yeah, Mog closes out our A tier. The next two characters in my S tier, I had a hard time figuring out where to place them, but I landed where I landed, and if you wanted to swap them, I wouldn't fight you on it. I'll explain everything as I go. Coming in at the bottom of our S tier is who some might consider the canonical heroine, and I might argue against that, but it's Terra. And Terra has a whole lot going for her. She is an outstanding mage, naturally, and she starts the game with fire magic, which is very good in the beginning of the game. Terra can access the best swords in the game. She has good gear and armor options. She's fairly durable. She's a fairly good warrior, and she's a very excellent mage. Mix this with her ability to morph into an Esper, which when you can get a full bar of that, really superpowers her and lets her unleash devastating damage on her enemies. I just always found morph to be kind of unreliable, and you can only use it so many times to get that full tank of gas with it, as it were, that it kind of bothers me, and I think some in the community overrate morph a little bit, but it still is a great ability since it just lets you do the good things better and more powerfully, right? Like ripping magic, which is exactly what I would be doing with Terra. I would build her to like 2x cast Ultima, is basically how I would build Terra, because she, between her and Celes, is the more magically slanted one. So that's what I would do with her. If you think she's better than Celes, wouldn't fight you on it. I think they're very similar. She's an outstanding mage and a very good character. I put Celes in second place over Terra, not because of her abilities. Like, Runic is kind of dog water in my opinion. Morph is definitely better than Runic, and I actually think Terra's natural aptitude slant is better than Celes's. Celes is faster and stronger. Terra's a better mage, and I would say that these ladies are at the top of their game when they're focusing on magic. So why do I rank Celes ahead of Terra? It's actually for just one simple reason. Celes is the best girl. No, I'm kidding. I mean, she is the best girl, but that's not why I'm putting her this head. I actually do think Celes is, there's a better argument for Celes being the main character of this game, but we're not going here with that. But what we will go with that mechanically is the fact that Celes is your main protagonist of the World of Ruin, which at that point you have a lot of access to Espers to stat build. I would say Terra actually has surprisingly spotty availability. Even in the World of Balance, you can get her pretty early in the World of Ruin, but I think Celes has, especially after you get your hands on Espers, better availability than Terra does. So what this means is that Celes is the character who you can build up via Espers better than any other character in this game. And that really does allow you to tailor her to what you want. I would probably also slant Celes to being a mage, and yeah, she's outstanding at it, but if you wanted to make her a warrior, you absolutely could. Celes is pretty strong, and she has access to all of the best swords in the game. Do what you want with her. She'll be a very powerful unit either way. She's damn good. By elimination, number one, and I know that this is a hot take, because I've never seen another tier list do this. And I said it before, the same way I said that people putting Edgar at the top of the tier list seem to have never made it past 6 hours in the game. People putting my boy, my hero, my favorite Final Fantasy character of all time, but that's not why I'm putting him this high, Locke, criminally low because they never made it past the 6 hour mark in the game. Like, okay guys, yes, when you first get Locke, he's embarrassingly weak. Terra's got magic. Sabin's got blitzes. Edgar has tools. Celes has magic. Shadow's throwing things for really good damage. And Locke's poking things with a knife and he can steal. And you're saying, oh my god, what the hell? This isn't fair. This guy just can't contribute the way the other characters can. And in those very, very early hours, that's definitely true. But you know something? You can get your first Genji glove in the Returner's hideout. And for all of those reasons, right? Celes and Terra have magic. Edgar has tools. Sabin's blitzing. Shadow's throwing. Your best Genji glove candidate is Locke. Especially since Locke, in my opinion, has the best weapon access in the entire damn game. In the early to mid game, in the very early game, give him some knives and swords. In the mid game, give him some of his amazing throwing weapons. Put him in the back row, which makes him very hard to kill, and he'll do outstanding damage Genji gloving throwing weapons. Later on, you can give him the ultimate weapon, you can give him the Sword of Light, or it was called Illumina for me. He gets the Valiant Knife, which is he's the only character that can use it, which doesn't lose its power on the Offering or Master Scroll. In my opinion, Locke is your best Master Scroll Genji glove wielding character in the entire game. He's the fastest character in the game, and he could be easily built to be even faster than that. And you will notice it with how quickly his turns come up. He is competently strong, stronger than Celes or Terra, and yeah, you give me the fastest character in the game with the best weapon access in the entire game. By the time you get your Genji glove, Locke is already, in my opinion, a better than average character. He's always your fastest character. He can do excellent damage from the back row through most of the game with his throwing weapons. And we haven't even talked about Steal, which actually, in my opinion, is one of the best abilities in the game. It's evergreen. There's actually a lot of good items and weapons that you can steal in this game, especially in the late game, where everybody else's abilities are falling off in favor of magic and basic attacking. Stealing is always useful. So yeah, Speedster, outstanding attacker. Yes, he has an abysmal very early game, but you get that first Genji glove through Bannon at the Returner's Hideout if you know what you're doing. Look up a guide if you don't. You get that first Genji glove pretty damn early in the game. You put that on Locke, and from that point forward, Locke is a monster. And in the end game, with a Genji glove and a Master Scroll, and I don't know, give him this, if you really want to go all in, give him the Valiant Knife and the Sword of Light, and or the Lightbringer, whatever the hell they call it, Illumina. There's a lot of names for it. Give him the Illumina and the Valiant Knife, and he's going to be an 8x attacking speedster whose damage is completely unmatched. Yes, his World of Ruin access leaves some to be desired. His World of Balance access is very good, but you get your hands on him, and in my opinion, he grows to become the strongest character in the entire game. I've never seen anybody else on the internet say that, so maybe you're going to tell me I'm wrong, and I will fight with you in the comments about it. So let's have it out. I'm looking forward to it. Other than that, guys, this is my Final Fantasy VI tier list. How do you think I did? Do you think I wildly messed this up? I know I've never seen a tier list rank these characters quite like this. I think my low end of the tier is pretty in line with what other people say, but I definitely had some hot takes going higher up. Let me know all about it. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video. I love doing character power ranking tier lists. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving me a like and a sub. I'm a small new YouTuber and all of the support means the world to me. This is Nick BRPG. Here I talk about all things RPG, with turn-based and JRPGs being my absolute favorite. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.